We added a disclaimer to everybody. So he was. And a lot of people are wondering because they don't want to be bound to anyone else's statement. I'd like to thank you all for coming out this morning in our opposition to the One Bay Area Plan, also known as Plan Bay Area. My name is Chris Pareja, and I'll be your appointed ringleader for this morning's activities. I'm a community organizer of sorts, and what we've done today is something that has not been possible in the Bay Area before, and that is to bring together a coalition of angry citizens who are in opposition to the One Bay Area Plan. Many of us have been, hold on just a second. They put me on a shorter leash. But what we've done is over the last couple of years, many of us have been in this fight against the One Bay Area Plan or Plan Bay Area, and we haven't been as focused or as organized. But over the last week or 2 weeks, what we have found is that many of us have much more in common than we do that separates us. And so what you're seeing is the result of a coalition being formed that reaches around the Bay Area and across the social, the political, and the philosophical divides. We have people from every county in the 9 Bay Area counties that are being affected. We have liberals, we have conservatives, Republicans, Democrats, independents, people who believe in Agenda 21, people who don't believe in Agenda 21, people who are from social justice groups, and others who are very concerned that this plan that's about to affect 7 to 9 million people in the Bay Area is about to be enacted, and people have no idea that it's happening, and they have no idea about the impact that it's going to have on their individual lives. And so I want to applaud all of you for coming together and supporting this opposition. Give yourselves a round of applause. We have several speakers here today who are going to take a few minutes to share with you some of the reasons that they are concerned about the plan. In a few minutes, after I read the press release that we sent out yesterday, I'm going to introduce you to the speakers who will be talking about transportation and the environment. They'll be talking about preserving the character and the communities that you've come to live in and love. We're going to talk about how flawed the assumptions are on the basis of this plan. We're going to talk about constitutional rights being violated, impacts on the minority communities. This plan is bad for the Bay Area, it's bad for the citizens, and we're not going to stop fighting until it's stopped. So let's start with a quick reading of the press release that we issued yesterday, talking about this press conference as well as why we're opposing the plan. Plan Bay Area and its supporting environmental impact report are quickly approaching their July 18th approval deadline, but a diverse group of organizations from throughout the 9 Bay Area counties is joining forces to challenge the plan's assumptions, numbers, processes, and recommendations. The much debated plan is purported to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 15% by 2035 to comply with a state mandate created by AB 332 as well as SB 375. MTC ABAG strategy to reach the goal is to promote high-density housing in corridors near transportation and freeways, impacting almost all of the 9 million residents living in the 101 cities of the Bay Area. This approach has generated opposition from neighborhood, homeowner, property rights, taxpayer, and community groups from across the political spectrum and around the Bay Area. Sorry, I'm handicapped without a podium. Proponents of the plan claim it leaves decisions to local jurisdictions, but acknowledge that cities and towns could be sued by individuals claiming the cities are out of compliance with the plan's dictates, and the burden of proof in those suits may be on the defendant cities. The burden for paying for the projects and lawsuits will fall upon taxpayers. Experts claim the assumptions that underlie the plan are faulty, and the plan fails to accomplish its stated objectives. Oakland-based Transportation Authority Tom Rubin, former Chief Financial Officer of the Southern California Rapid Transit District, says the plan contains unrealistic financial assumptions and ignores a long history of cost overruns for mass transit projects. Comment letters on the draft plan and its draft EIR have offered authoritative analysis and evidence that show the plan's high-density housing will not reduce GHGs, rather it will increase them, and the plan's mass transit subsidies similarly will increase instead of decreasing GHGs. Many people that support the plan in the belief that it will provide affordable housing, but the plan's own findings conclude it will not provide equitable access. Instead, ABAG and MTC staff found that the plan moves in the wrong direction. The share of household income needed to cover transportation and housing costs is projected to rise to 69% for low-income residents. Citizen leaders reject population and job growth projections and accuse ABAG MTC staff of using highly manipulative measures throughout the 2-year process to secure tepid support for predetermined solutions. These leaders also claim the goals of reducing greenhouse gases will be met with measures already put in place by the state and federal government, such as the Corporate Average Fuel Economy Standard, CAFE, which requires 54.5 miles per gallon by 2025. Environmental groups are concerned about disregard for sea level rise and the increased depletion of resources. Others are worried about weakening California Environmental Quality Act requirements, and still others raise concerns about the plan's failure to address issues of infrastructure such as water and sewage and erosion of the tax base for education, police, and fire protection. The majority of the coalition agrees that this 25-year plan will negatively impact generations of Bay Area residents by restricting 66% of jobs and 80% of housing to just 4% of the land in all of the 9 Bay Area counties. That's the press release, and as you can tell, it took several inhales for me to complete it, but these people are angry. So let me just read the list. This is a partial list of the people that have signed on to oppose the plan. There were others that haven't been able to get the approval deadlines from the organizations that they support, as well as some groups that unfortunately are in fear of bullying taking place in their communities if they sign on. But we know that they support this, and we appreciate their support. And these are in alphabetical order. Alameda County Property Rights Task Force, Alameda County Republican Party, Yay. Bay Area Citizens, Bay Area Patriots, Yay. CPR, which is Californians for Property Rights, Citizens Town Hall, Conservative Forum of Silicon Valley, Conservative Party of California, Constitution Party of California, the Contra Costa Republican Party, Democrats Against UN Agenda 21, East Bay Tea Party, Frederick Douglass Foundation, Friends of Danville, Log Cabin Republicans of San Francisco, Marin Republican Party, My Liberty, Napa Republican Party, Post Sustainability Institute, Orinda Watch, Quiet and Safe San Rafael, Santa Rosa Neighborhood Coalition, San Francisco Republican Party, San Francisco Tea Party, SF Caper 912, SF Bay Caper, Solano County Republican Party, Sonoma County Republican Party, and just to disclaim for everyone's protection that the organizations are united in opposition to Plan Bay Area, but do not necessarily share other political, social, or legislative views. And so at this point, what I'd like to do is introduce some of the speakers, and we'll start with Kevin Crick, and he'll talk a little bit about his background, as well as environment and transportation issues.
Thank you, Chris. I think we all should start off by giving Chris a round of applause for this Herculean effort. Thank you so much. As Chris mentioned, I'm here today on behalf of the California Republican Party Bay Area counties. So I represent the 6 counties that fall in our jurisdiction, which is Marin, San Francisco, San Mateo, Santa Clara, Alameda, Contra Costa. But I'm also here today to represent, on behalf of my counterpart to the north, the 3 counties of Sonoma, Napa, and Solano, all of our central committees. All right. And yeah, I am actually the chair of the Marin County Republican Party as well too. So that's how this all fits together. But I want to thank you all for for being here on a Friday morning, taking your time out of your busy work day, since MTC and ABAG like to schedule their meetings when people actually have to be at work. So it's good of you all to come out here to do this. The majority of our Republican Central Committees throughout the Bay Area have passed a resolution opposing Plan Bay Area. And if you'd like a copy of the resolution, you can see Matt Shoup right there. He's the executive director for the San Francisco GOP. We passed the same resolution. So let me just put this in context here. You've got all these county central committees, all who are made up of very opinionated, very politically active people, but saw the bigger picture here is what matters. And we took the same language in every county and passed it to show our solidarity against this project, which is a huge effort. And why did we do this? Because we think it's a bad idea. And let me explain a little bit about my background to set the stage as to why we think this is a bad idea. I come from the transportation industry. I've been involved in transportation and shipping particularly since I went to the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy back in 1987. I work right now for a major container shipping company, and they are actually head up their environmental affairs. So I'm looking at this from two perspectives, the transportation side of it and the environmental side of it. And the transportation side of it, having been involved on the greenhouse gas emission reduction piece for container shipping, I can tell you unequivocally that this plan will not reduce greenhouse gases. It does not protect the environment. It's all about social engineering and trying to ignore free will. Establishing high-density housing along fixed transportation corridors takes the idea of if you build it, they will come, and adds a layer of making people show up. And let me put this into some perspective here. From the container shipping industry, you've got a port right down here in Oakland for moving containers. You've got another one, the largest one in the U.S., LA and Long Beach, down in Los Angeles and Long Beach. Those container shipping container ports are there because the people are there. You're not going to put the port of Oakland up near Eureka. You're not going to put the port of LA near Big Sur where there's not a population. It's because the idea behind transportation is to move things efficiently. We move boxes to get them to where the people are. Same thing with public transportation. You want to establish public transportation to move people from where they are to where they want to go. You don't move the people to the public transportation. And that's what this thing does. It's ridiculous. Woo! Thank you. And that's where they want to go, and this plan is doomed from the start. It fails in its two main objectives, reducing greenhouse gases and creating affordable housing. Implementing a plan that will fail before it has been started is fiscally irresponsible. Creating more regulations without any chance of a favorable income is an unnecessary growth of government power. This plan advocates segregation, placing the poor, minorities, the elderly near mass transit and freeways, much like decades ago when they put interstates in and they routed them through low-income communities. It's completely the same example. It's the same thing we're seeing today, social engineering. The Republican parties of the Bay Area believe in protecting the environment and advocating for the value of the individual and their freedom. This plan reduces choice in housing and limits mobility, reducing options for individuals and their pursuit of happiness while enabling the degradation of our environment. Whether you live in an urban area, a suburban neighborhood, or a rural part of our Bay Area, this plan's one-size-fits-all approach will equally diminish your quality of life. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, a Green, or a declined estate. Plan Bay Area is an equal opportunity offender. And today's diverse crowd, as you'll see from the speakers coming up, is indicative of the ubiquitous opposition this plan has throughout our region. While we're here today to oppose the implementation on our generations, we must also act for future generations in order to spare them the injustice of a failed social policy and an environmental travesty. Thank you.
I need support. Jose? Jose? Mike? Hello?
There you go.
Power button. At this point, I'd like to introduce Linda Delahunt from Orinda.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here, greeting all of you about this topic that is extremely important to all Bay Area residents, in fact, all residents across the state. My name is Linda Delahunt. I've been an Orinda resident for 33 years. And today I bring you a message as a spokesperson from Orinda Watch. Let me tell you a little bit about Orinda Watch. Orinda Watch was born last year. It was born out of a response to many concerns that local citizens had about the future of Orinda. Orinda Watch listens to Orinda. It provides Orinda citizens with a voice. Since its inception, it has had several town hall meetings and has more scheduled. It provides an active dialogue for Orinda citizens so they can have a forum to discuss and precisely plan for a continuing excellence in the quality of life, not only for Orinda residents, but for all future generations. Let me tell you a little bit about Orinda. Orinda is a very small city. It has approximately 16,000 residents. It is, for the most part, a sleepy little town. It is sandwiched in the freeway crossroads between the urban cities of Oakland and Richmond. In its pre-city days, it did not have the reputation of being as stylish a city as its big city neighbors, Oakland and Richmond. In fact, because of its weather and proximity to San Francisco, Orinda's homes were primarily built as summer homes for the richer folks. Thus, the feeling of the town has always been and has been kept somewhat rural. Orinda citizens moved to Orinda for its special qualities. Its citizens care about their city. They are thoughtful, they have high expectations of government, and expect their elected officials to do the right thing. They care deeply about their community and have high standards of excellence to build one of the best all-around communities and school systems in the state. When things go awry, Orinda citizens yell. For Orinda citizens, ABAG and Plan Bay Area made the warning bell toll loud and clear. Orinda Watch has given Orindans the opportunity to evaluate the stack and pack notion embodied in the design of Plan Bay Area. Orindans are repulsed. Their high standards and expectations for their own community has been developed by an external group called ABAG. ABAG is a third party who may never have visited or here. ABAG is a third-party group who may have never visited Orinda. Local control has been sorely abused and lost in this process. Orindans want and need to plan and build their own town based on the wants and needs of their own community. Local control has a central notion at the heart and soul of Orinda, and it has been obliterated by ABAG. ABAG has a careless concern for the wants and needs of the local community. At the heart of its plan, ABAG threatens to bring stacks of piled-up condos which threaten to ruin this tiny city gem. But why? Regional agencies have made a deal. The quality of life for Orinda's present and future generations is at risk. Because of Plan Bay Area, the quality of life in Orinda is in the process of being changed forever. ABAG, by design, is funneling public tax money to developers to build high-density housing that does not fit our rural community. Orinda wants its local control back. Orindans want a voice. Orindans want to determine the future of their own community. Thank you for listening.
And Linda's example is just one of the community groups in the Bay Area who has the very same concerns about keeping their communities the way that they designed them, the way that they would like to keep them, and to live in the areas that they choose to live. At this point, I'd like to introduce Peter Singleton, and he's going to talk a bit about the flawed assumptions used to develop the plan.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning. I'm Peter Singleton with Bay Area Citizens. We are a nonprofit organization that supports and protects citizens' interests in land use regulation, property rights, local community control, and the environment. The comment period for Plan Bay Area and its draft EIR closed 4 weeks ago. ABAG and MTC received hundreds of comments from citizens, cities, and organizations. The comments were well documented and based on solid data and analysis. They raised grave concerns about the plan and the way it was justified. All of this has been ignored in the report that's being presented this morning. Rather, ABAG and MTC staffers are reporting the results of their public opinion survey. This poll essentially asked members of the public if they supported a plan that improved the economy, benefited the environment, and helped affordable housing. ABAG and MTC have concluded, based on this astonishing survey, that the public knows about their plan and likes it. However, the comment letters that ABAG and MTC are ignoring today paint a devastating picture of a plan that cannot and will not work and has irreversible and significant impacts on our cities and way of life. They prove indisputably that neither the plan's high-density housing nor mass transit subsidies will reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In fact, they will raise them. Plan B area is a land use plan and a transportation plan. If neither will achieve their stated goals, then what are we left with? A plan bereft of any public benefits whatsoever with massive undisclosed costs. Everywhere you look in this flawed plan, you find material emissions, faulty assumptions, and improper analysis. The forecasts for population growth are too high. Their models for market demand for high-density housing are so far off that even their own studies conclude there's no way this housing can be built, even with massive new public subsidies. The plan uses models for greenhouse gas emissions for California that are way too high in order to create the false impression that something drastic must be done and must be done now. The plan's analysis ignores the impacts of regulations governing automobile mileage and energy-efficient buildings. Those two sets of regulations alone will lead to greenhouse gas emission reductions dozens of times greater than what ABAG and MTC claim they will achieve from their high-density housing and their mass transit subsidies. Even if their models are correct, their plan will only lead to a 1.2% difference in greenhouse gas emissions between their plan with all of its costs and all of its limitations on our way of life and doing nothing at all. This plan is so flawed and its analysis so improper that the only decision that can be taken is to scrap it entirely and start again. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And at this point, I'd like to bring up Kevin McGarry, president of the California Frederick Douglass Foundation.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here. I'm the president of the Frederick Douglass Foundation, California. And essentially our foundation is committed to ensuring maximum freedom and liberty for all Americans. We are, this is a particular subject for us because we are social policy advocates. We look out for anything that appears to disproportionately harm communities of color. And this is one of those schemes, unfortunately, that really goes to the heart of disproportionately harming communities of color and some of our major urban centers throughout California. The good news about us standing here together and unified today is the fact that this is not a right or left or Republican or Democrat issue. We can unite around one thing. And we are united around one thing, and the one thing is just pure Americanism. What this plan is fundamentally un-American. And the reason why I say that is because what it does is it enforces regional control over local economies, local communities, and essentially it limits the choices of people that currently reside within those communities. So it forces them at some point to either move out of those communities and be segregated in other parts of town, or it forces them to have to deal with significantly escalating prices as a result of these new housing that they're going to put in. Anything, we know for a fact, as all Americans across the board, anything that government exerts its control and authority and authority over, especially as it relates to social policy, planned economies, and those types of things. There's two things that we can count on 100% of the time. 100% of the time we can count on cost overruns, which will affect everybody in all of these regions. And number two, we can count on the fact that we'll have limited choices and therefore limited freedom, limited justice, and limited liberty for all of us as a result of this kind of a plan. If this plan was earnest and sincere, we would look sincerely at trying to increase the flexibility, the upward mobility within the urban communities that are, right now scheduled for these types of plans. And we would actually look at other means of increasing employment and upward mobility in those ways. But this one is one that is reminiscent of planned economies and planned societies and planned communities that were in other countries more communistic in their approach. So this is a plan that is quintessentially un-American, and we stand united against this planned Bay Area. Thank you.
And at this point, we're going to bring up our last speaker. I will take back over the mic afterwards. If you have questions, we can hopefully get you answers, but I would like to bring up Rosa Corey to talk about our constitutional rights and some plans she has.
Great. I'm so glad to be here with all of you, and this is such an important event, so important for all of us to come together and fight what is, basically completely goes against our Constitution. I am the executive director of the Post Sustainability Institute, also here representing Democrats against UN Agenda 21 and the Santa Rosa Neighborhood Coalition. The Post Sustainability Institute and Freedom Advocates are committed to the fight to stop Plan Bay Area with legal action. Plan Bay Area is a shocking overreach in MTC ABAG's experiment in regional governance. Less than 0.3% of the 7 million residents of the 9 counties gave their input on this plan that will have negative impacts for generations to come. Plan Bay Area violates the California and U.S. constitutions and violates voter-approved urban growth boundary ordinances that can only be changed with a vote of the people, and that is not going to happen with this plan. Through the life of the plan, roughly 25 years, 80% of all residential development and 66% of all commercial development must be built in priority development areas. These priority development areas are very limited locations in just a few cities. This violates the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution and Article 1, Section 7A of the California Constitution. Plan Bay Area is dependent on tax subsidies and on the reinstatement of redevelopment. Those of us who fought to stop redevelopment law abuse and the economy-crushing redevelopment debt are watching in horror as Plan Bay Area depends on its resurrection. Plan Bay Area violates the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution and Article 1, Section 1 of the California Constitution. In violation of the Equal Protections Clause, Plan Bay Area ensures that property owners in priority development areas will receive development permits approximately 80 times more than property owners outside of these restricted areas. Plan Bay Area permanently strips all development rights from hundreds of thousands of acres of rural property in all 9 counties in the Bay Area. Plan Bay Area is effectively taking conservation easements on all rural lands without paying for them. These regional plans, they're similar all across the United States. These plans are all over the U.S., but this plan is the most radical, most aggressive violation of our rights in the nation. We must sue to stop this plan. Now look, It's going to take money to stop this plan. We are going to have to pay legal fees, and it is up to you. This is your fight. This is your legal fight. You need to donate. Donate to the Post Sustainability Institute and Freedom Advocates Legal Fund, and that will make it possible. Remember, the only way to stop this now is with a lawsuit. So go ahead, go to our websites, postsustainabilityinstitute.org and freedomadvocates.org, and donate. This is the time to donate to stop this plan. We must sue to stop this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosa. And at this point, if there are any questions for me or for any of the speakers, we can address those. I'm assuming that if anyone does have questions, they'll use their non-sign holding hand to raise them. If not, we're all set, and what we would do is encourage you. The speakers will be around if you have questions for us. But we also encourage those of you who took the time out of your day to come this morning to please step inside, attend the meeting, and make your voices heard inside to prevent them from moving forward without the unrealistic expectation that everyone is in favor of the plan. We know that's not the truth, and we want to make sure that they know it as well. Thank you for, oh, sorry, there's a question.
Chris, is this the complete roster of people that are opposed to this? And what are your next steps with this coalition?
The list is not complete in that there are others who have considered joining on. There are some that couldn't get the approval from the organizations they represent to get their names listed. We are still accepting these, and then we will probably issue another release before the July 18th scheduled implementation of the plan, where we will further amplify the ideas that people are opposed to the plan. We aren't going to tip our hand yet to any other ways we might be wreaking havoc between now and July 18th, but rest assured there are enough angry people around here that I'm sure stuff will come up.
Yeah.
Madam, you have a question?
Well, it's a comment. Actually, there's a group called Citizen Marin that met last night that we're beginning to organize to see if we can bring a bus to the meeting on the 18th. And we'll just invite any of the rest of you in other counties who want to bring people to that final meeting on the 18th to look into getting a bus and bringing buses of people so they don't have to hassle with parking.
And so, for those of you who weren't able to hear that, Citizen Marin is organizing a bus trip to come on July 18th. See, it's not that we're against mass transportation or carpooling. It's that we want it done effectively, especially when the taxpayer money is involved, and especially when most of the millions of people in the Bay Area don't know what's about to hit them. Did you have a question, sir?
Yeah, my name is Clark, Republican National Committee.
Okay.
I'd like to know if there are any Republicans here.
Are there any Republicans here?
Yes!
Are there any Democrats here?
Yes!
There are Democrats, there are independents, there are people who are just fed up with the system entirely.
Okay, did you ever hear of a liberal Republican?
We have heard of liberal Republicans, yes. Okay.
They're called libertarians.
No, it's been an amazing journey to get to this point where we could bring all of these coalitions together. And I just want to thank all of you for your involvement, your support, and really joining the fight together to make this a possibility. And at this point, I think we are done with questions. We need to get in and wreak some havoc internally. Thank you for coming.